Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I hope you're doing well today. Shout out to all the subscribers as always. Gratitude to anybody new locked in. Welcome along. Let's talk about defense, or the art of defense. I've been meaning to make this video for a while now, and I wanted to talk about really, the essence of defense and some of the skill sets and philosophy involved in defense, because it's a very deep subject. Really is nothing for me. There's nothing more beautiful than seeing a fighter evade several punches, just from the pure expression and the beauty of it. And obviously defense comes in many forms, from blocking to slipping to rolling to stepping back to using your feet. We're going to get into all of that. I'm going to talk about some of the best defensive fighters in boxing history, from Floyd Mayweather, Pernell Whitaker, Dimitri Bivol, Willie Pep, Nicolino Loche. We're going to cover a few other fighters as well, and we're going to just chop it up, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on the whole subject. Let's go.
Boxing.
All right, let's get straight into it. Okay, so in this interview, I love watching Andre Ward and Virgil Hunter videos. I've said this many times before, but in this clip I'll show you Ward talks about footwork.
A lot of fighters are taught hands first. They never look at their feet. Just throw a jab. You're teaching the kid how to box. I was taught feet first. Learn to use your feet with the jab. So that way, throw at me. Just throw a combination. Control you with my feet.
And he's like, a lot of old school trainers teach footwork, because fundamentally footwork is probably the most important thing in boxing, along with keeping your hands up. But footwork, not only is it used for offense, obviously, but it's a massive part of defense, huge, especially with the simple yet most effective move in defense in boxing, which is a step back.
Here. Throw a jab. Here. Boom. Got you. I'm off.
A simple step back can neutralize your opponent, frustrate them, make them miss, put you in a better position. You can drain their energy. There's just so many positive things from such a simple, straightforward maneuver. But mastering that is another thing too. And as I said, defense comes in many different forms. You can block shots using, getting your base under you, which is really important, having your balance.
So when you throw a right hand at me, throw a right hand, and here, counter, boom.
And able to hold a shot off. You can obviously shoot back after that. I covered that in my art of counter punching video. I'll leave the link up here for that. Then you've got, your slipping and rolling, which you can make fighters look really stupid, frustrate them, take their energy from them, really embarrass them, really. Which I'll pull up clips as I'm talking from all the fighters that I mentioned in the opening, and I'll add a few others, like, as I'm going along, because there's so many, and it's just such a, like I said, such a beautiful sight when you see a fighter move with just such beautiful footwork and head movement as well, from your Canelos to your Mayweathers to Pernell Whitaker. Then you've got your Dimitri Bivol, who has a different style of defense, because his defense is mainly defensive responsibility, right, which is programmed in what you do after your attack. All right, they're so systematic. He's so systematic with it. When he's punching, he's already thinking about getting out of the way.
Anybody stand out to you specifically?
Boxing.
Impressive. He got up from the canvas. He showed courage. Devastating puncher as well.
As does Floyd Mayweather, as does Roy Jones. I covered that in my counter punching video as well, because that is a beautiful part of defense, and that's where the chess not checkers comes in, right? When you're attacking, You don't want to just attack and move your pawn. You want to think before you've even mounted your attack, okay, I've got to do this, and then after I've done that, I need to move out the way. Whether I move my head, whether I slip out the way, whether I block, that's defensive responsibility, and that is one of the most underrated, most important things in boxing, I think.
Perfect example of Floyd Mayweather's speed and skill. He moves from a punch, counters and lands a punch, and gets away from another punch, and gets away from another punch, all at the same motion.
And very few have it programmed in, because it is programmable. You can program just about any fighter, I think, to be defensively responsible. It's just getting them to do it. Another massive part of defense is concentration. If you look at the best fighters that have defense, their concentration levels are high, you know, extremely high. From Mayweather to Shakur Stevenson to Dimitri Bivol, he is just a sensational defensive fighter. Tim Tszyu, very underrated, very good defensive fighter. And Shakur Stevenson, they just have this look about them. They're ready, they're reading. Okay, a lot of part of defense is reading your opponent before they've even done it, so you know what they're going to do before they do it. And a lot of that becomes from IQ, and it becomes from, okay, I can either read their eyes or I can read the movement, picking up boxing tells, or a punch tell, excuse me, which is the movement in their hand, or maybe their eyes or their feet, or anything that gives your defensive wizard something to attach onto so they can make their move. Okay, the slightest little things will make a good defensive fighter be able to read it and counteract to it. Then you have the ability to, like, obviously Floyd Mayweather, who was superb at the shoulder roll, and I'll talk about what Virgil Hunter said about that, which is fascinating from a scientific part of it. We're going to cover art and science in this, because boxing is a sweet science, but it's an art as well. And this is just such a beautiful move and scientific explanation too. When he's talking about Mayweather doing the shoulder roll, he's talking about breaking the impact, okay?
So that's ingrained, right? So his instincts turn in. So when you go for it, he broke it, just like catching an egg. You know, you gotta guide it into your hands in an egg toss. You know what I'm talking about. So he egg tosses your punch. He just rolls it in, rolls it in.
Like he talks about guiding an egg, okay? So you wouldn't catch an egg like that, it would just crack, right? So you'd have to catch it in like that to take the sting off it. That's what shoulder rolling is, or that's what rolling with the punches is. When you see fighters do this and they cover here and they move this, they're taking the sting off it every time, taking the sting off it. Actually, Pitbull Cruz did it against Tank very subtly.
Davis trying to get those uppercuts in, and here he winds up with one, and there a very conscious effort by Cruz to block that punch. That was kind of impressive, wasn't it? Because that punch gets in. Right,
when Tank slipped a shot and he was coming back with an uppercut, Pitbull Cruz just guided that shot in. Instead of catching, when you have two forces land like that, that's the maximum impact you would get. But if this is coming back a little bit, it's going to take 10 to 15 to 20% off. You got to imagine it's the same thing as a punch. When Canelo was shooting those shots to Mayweather's face, but he was shoulder rolling it, that's breaking the shot, right? That's taking a little bit of sting. If he didn't break it, he just stood there like that, it would whack his arm, and it would be more impactful, and that would be, you know, more of a negative way to deal with that shot. Although he'd be blocking it, so there's arguments for, if you're blocking it, you're blocking it, but what's the best way to block it? The best thing to do completely would be to have your opponent miss, but breaking the shots as well and rolling with them, I mean, it's a beautiful thing, and that's very hard to do. In fact, nobody's really mastered it except for Floyd Mayweather. Amazing defensive fighter. Pernell Whitaker. There's some of the things that I will leave clips as I'm talking. Some of the moves, and athleticism and instinctual, like a mobility, agility. Just breathtaking. It's just like you can't teach it. Really, you cannot teach some of the moves that these defensive wizard fighters were able to do, you know. And back to footwork, when Andre Ward was talking and no one teaches it, if you look at the some of the beautiful fighters with great defense with footwork, like the Dmitry Bivol, but Ivan Calderon. Very, very slick, very hard to hit, and a big part of that was his upper body movement, but it was his feet and his intelligence and his concentration. Willie Pep, old school fighter from, I want to say, oh man, my boxing history's okay, I want to say the 40s, but like he went 200 and something fights, had like, you know, mostly wins. I'll leave his record up. My history's okay, it could be better, but I certainly know and have followed him a little bit, and I know he was one of the only fighters that actually won a round. It was like he won a round without throwing a punch. It's a very historic, you know, part of boxing history, and that's because of his defense. If everything's equal and your opponent is not able to hit you or land clean punches, and their ineffective aggression is kicking in and they can't hit you, then you're going to probably win the round on defense. That's what that was. But you know, it's like a ballerina. A lot of these defensive fighters, they move like ballerinas, you know. I'm sure they wouldn't want me to refer to them as a ballerina, but you get what I'm saying. The elegance is there. The sheer borderline arrogance. If you want to talk about Nicolino Loche, who had that too, had massive lack of discipline as well, but his arrogance was also, you know, a big part of his defense. He was just so good at it. It's like he reminds me of Maradona. Anybody that in America doesn't know Maradona, one of the best football players, if not the best ever. He had some discipline problems, but he just could just naturally just run with the ball and just be amazing. That's what Loche could do. Just be amazing, you know, just breathtaking head movement like that, taunting his opponents. Ben Whittaker is able to do that, obviously at a very low level, so we'll see if he can do it as he steps up. But some of the moves he can do are very impressive, and he can also counterpunch off of making you miss, make you miss and you make you pay. That is something that is very hard to do. In fact, Ben Whittaker's start working on a artistic piece on him, should be out in about a month or two. All the videos I talk about are coming out eventually, you know. I know I do talk about them, but it's like they're like paintings. I'll start a little bit and then I'll look at it and I'll think it's trash and I'm like, all right, let me put that away, let me get some more ideas, I'll come back to it and I'll paint it a bit more. And if you're new to the channel, artistry is a big part of this channel, and that's why the title is called The Art of Defense, you know. I try to inject a little bit of art, a bit of music, and just to bring it all together and just speak from the heart and talk about boxing, really. And you know, I'm grateful for people that are tuning in. Thank you very much. So if you are new and you're wondering what the hell is this channel about, it's not easy to fully get because I go off on these artistic tangents. But you know, a big part of defense is that art, it's that expression, you know. Like we're just fighters, are just, they're feeling themselves, and it just comes out naturally. But then you have fighters like your Mayweather, who has the Philly shell drilled down to absolute perfection, which is a counter-punching system, which, you know, is used like, you know, defensively, catching the right hand, catching the hook here, using that to block the shots down below. But the concentration level is always at an all-time high. You know, just reading, feeling your opponent, with using your agility, your athleticism, mobility. You know, it's so masterful, and there's nothing more beautiful than watching a good fighter move their head, make somebody miss, and then make them pay. It might be, at least for me, the most adored thing in boxing. When Canelo was in his groove against Danny Jacobs, when he went through that, when he started against Austin Trout, that was when his defense really, I think for me, got noticed really well. And from then on, he just realized that head movement, upper body movement, slipping, rolling shots, countering, you know, you can take your game to another level.
Yeah, and you're at least the other jab. Lots of jabs, nothing landed. However, Canelo is moving and not punching.
But as I said, Andre Ward was mentioning it's not taught enough, and you can use it to psychologically empty your opponent's mental state. They can get frustrated, and it takes more energy for a fighter to miss you.
We got to remember that the feet are the first line of defense. And, you know, you can have your hands up and you can slip and you can get away from a shot, but sometimes you may slip into a punch. Sometimes you may slip and come back into a punch. But if you get good feet, you don't even have to have great feet. You just got to be able to know how to use it and when to use it. If a guy charges me and I take 2 steps backwards, that punch just fell short.
You know, as I said, you can block shots like that, keep your base under you. That's all good and well. But, you know, your opponent is going to hit that and they're going to be in a better position from hitting that as opposed to if they missed it. But then, you know, stepping back, slipping shots, just as there's several ways to you know, neutralize somebody with defense, you know. And offense is defense too. Back to Floyd Mayweather, he used to counterpunch people so sharply and put them in their box and make them not want to punch. And that's what Tim Tszyu does too, actually, you know, and Canelo too. You know, they have a really beautiful style, but Mayweather, he would catch people hard, accurate, sharp shots like that, make them miss and then make them pay. And then they don't want to keep getting clean, hard shots to the face. So then they stop punching. So then he walked them down. Tim Tszyu does that. He makes fighters miss, makes them pay, and then he keeps making them miss, and then it will walk them down. He's already walking them down anyway, but eventually it gets to that. Canelo is style right now. Obviously, he was a counter puncher on the back foot for a lot of it, and he used to sit there and box. Now he has that front foot pressure, but you don't want to make a mistake against Canelo because he'll make you miss and make you pay, and then that's defense as well because now you're not punching. So there's so many elements to it. It's fascinating. It's such a beautiful thing in the sport, and I really love watching high-level defensive fighters perform. And, you know, even Clarissa Shields, her head movement and defense is elite. It really is. Very fluid, very confident. You got to have a lot of confidence, arrogance, and execution to pull all these moves off together. And whilst remaining calm as well, breathing properly, watching your opponent, concentrating, staying in motion, you know. It's not easy. And Dimitri Bivol has mastered the art of defense. You know, his level of how much he gets hit, him and Shakur Stevenson were right at the top as opposed from opponents landing shots on them. And he can do it whilst being offensive. So he'll come in and he'll attack. He'll let his hands go with the 2-3 sharp, hard, fast shots. And right as he feels you making an attack, that's when he steps out.
Anybody stand out to you specifically?
On the edge. It was just impressive. He got up from the canvas. He showed courage. Devastating puncher as well.
And his feet have been conditioned for that. All right. And I've even been looking into this more, how in the Soviet style, they train their ankles with certain exercises, right, to get the harder ankles so you can use your feet quicker. And that's a part of this documentary I'm making, which is going to be next after I finish the Matias Parra one, because these take weeks, really. You know, the Bivol one's taking me weeks. It's going to take me a couple more weeks once I get started with it. But I really want to drill home the exercises he does to make himself, or not just exercises, but the training regime and a lot of the moves he does to make his defense so good and his offense. But it will come into play, and hopefully I'll have that in a few weeks' time because I've been talking about it for about a year. But anyway, when I say something, I will do it. It just take me a bit of time. But anyway, what time is it? 15:26. All right, I've been rambling quite a bit. I feel like I had a bit more to add, and I feel like I haven't quite articulated myself as good as I wanted. But I don't know, sometimes when I watch it back, it comes out all right. I'm going to put a bit of music together with it and edit it and bring as many clips in as I can from all the fighters I'm talking about and more. And, you know, hopefully you guys enjoy it. And if you are new to the channel, you know, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. I really appreciate it. I've got so many videos coming. I will try to get that Matias Parra film study done by the weekend, hopefully Monday or Tuesday at the very latest. It's a big project. I've got all the music to make for it, and I've got all the editing to do, but I'm getting there, and I want it to be a beautiful piece of art, basically. Anyway, that's it from me. Thank you, as always, very much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Peace and love. Boxing on the edge. Thank you.
Boxing.
On it.